When the shuttle went down over Athis Prime, I didn't expect to survive, much less end up sharing a cave with an alien who wanted every human dead. The crash had turned the sky into a smear of orange and black. My name's Lieutenant Kai Mercer, engineer with the Terran Frontier Corps. Our mission was to establish diplomatic contact with the Volari Dominion, one of the few alien empires still not at war with humanity. But diplomacy turned to chaos when our ship was hit by a stray plasma shell from orbit. I came to in the wreckage, half buried under molten steel. My exosuit was sparking, oxygen down to 30%, and the emergency beacon was fried. When I finally crawled free, I wasn't alone. A figure stood over me, tall and fierce, her skin a faint luminescent silver marked by indigo stripes that ran along her arms. Her eyes, narrow, glowing with inner light, regarded me like I was something she'd scrape off her boots. Her armor was cracked, one of her 4 shoulder plates shattered. She carried a plasma glaive that still hummed faintly with charge. "A human," she said with unmistakable disgust. Of course it had to be a human. "Nice to meet you too," I rasped. "Mind not killing me until I at least stand up?" She didn't smile, but she didn't strike either. Her name, as I learned later, was Saren Vothal, captain of the Volari Vanguard. Her dropship had gone down the same as ours, same battle, different sides of the diplomatic disaster. For all her hatred of humanity, she was now stranded with one. We were both bleeding, exhausted, and kilometers from anything resembling civilization. The storms outside, the magnetic kind that shred unshielded electronics, made calling for help impossible. We had one choice: survive together. Middle. The first night was quiet, too quiet. I tried to make a fire from the ship's debris, while Saren watched from the shadows, her glaive across her lap. "I should have left you to die," she said flatly. "You didn't," I replied, "so I'll take that as progress." Her glare could have melted steel. Still, when she realized I was shaking from cold, the temperature had dropped below freezing once Athis's twin sun set, she tossed me a piece of Volari thermal fabric. "Don't misunderstand," she said. "If you die, your corpse will draw scavengers. That's all." "Sure," I said, wrapping the fabric around myself. "It's purely practical." She ignored me, staring out into the lightning-lit wasteland beyond the cave mouth. The next day, I managed to get a weak scanner online. It showed the nearest human distress beacon was at least 70 kilometers east, through mountains crawling with storms and predator signatures. I explained our situation to Saren. "We can't stay here," I said. "If we hike east, there's a chance the rescue teams will pick us up." "And what do you expect me to do?" she asked. "March beside the species that annihilated my people on Alcaris? Pretend we are comrades?" "No," I said, looking her dead in the eye. "Just try not to stab me before we get there." She stared for a long time. Then, finally, she stood and shouldered her glaive. "Fine, human. But if you slow me down, I will leave you behind." The first few days were brutal. The planet's gravity was slightly higher than Earth's, and the terrain was a jagged wasteland of crystalline cliffs and toxic dust storms. Saren moved like a predator, silent, efficient. I, on the other hand, was dragging a half-fried exosuit and a badly twisted ankle. She never offered help, but she also never walked too far ahead. Once during a storm, my oxygen filter jammed. I started coughing violently, tearing the helmet off to clear it. The dust seared my lungs, and I collapsed. When I came to, I was lying under a makeshift shelter made from her armor plates, my lungs burning, but still functional. Saren was kneeling beside me, her hands glowing faintly as she pressed something against my chest. "What are you doing?" I gasped. "Filtering the toxins," she said. You would be dead if I hadn't. Why save me? Her jaw tightened. Because your corpse would have slowed me down. Right? I muttered. Totally practical again. But I saw her eyes soften, just for a second. We continued. Days blurred into one another. Nights were worse, freezing winds, eerie howls echoing through the canyons. One night, while I was setting up a small heat generator, I caught her watching me, not with hostility, but curiosity. You humans are strange, she said finally. You destroy, yet you also build. You lie, yet you still keep promises. Guess we're complicated, I said. Her gaze drifted to the stars. On my homeworld, they taught us humans were monsters. Beasts that burned entire worlds for resources. But you risked your life for me back in the wreckage. You were trapped under debris, I said. Didn't seem right to leave you there. Even though I am your enemy, doesn't matter. You were someone who needed help. She stared at me for a long while before turning away. You are either a fool or something worse. Worse. A human with a heart, she said quietly. By the 6th day, exhaustion was taking its toll. Food rations were gone, storms worsening. My oxygen suit was down to 15%. We found a small cave near a geothermal vent, warm enough to rest. I was half delirious from fatigue when Saren crouched beside me, examining the crack in my helmet visor. You will not last another day if that leaks again, she said. Yeah, I figured. She hesitated. Then, to my surprise, she removed a thin strip of glowing metallic fabric from her own armor. Hold still. She patched the visor carefully, sealing it with what looked like her own energy signature. When she was done, I said, Thanks. Guess I owe you one. You owe me nothing, she said. You are human. Gratitude is not expected. Well, I said, leaning back, you might as well get used to it. Used to what? Humans doing stupid things for people they care about. And maybe, just maybe, she'd trust me enough not just to sleep beside me, but to walk beside humanity itself. She frowned. You care about me? Wouldn't be patching helmets if I didn't think you were worth keeping alive. She didn't respond. But when I drifted off to sleep that night, I felt something strange. Her presence beside me, silent, unmoving, but protective. Ending. We made it to the ridge on the 10th day. The beacon signal was stronger. Only 10 kilometers now. But so were the storms. A plasma storm tore through the valley, forcing us to shelter inside a narrow fissure. The walls glowed with static discharge, and our comm units screamed interference. We had no choice but to huddle together as the temperature plunged. Saren sat rigid beside me, her breathing steady. Her armor emitted a faint, comforting hum. Your suit won't hold heat much longer, she said. Yeah. Figures I'd die freezing next to someone who hates me. I do not hate you. That caught me off guard. Really? You've said it every day since we met. I said I hated your kind, not you. Silence. Then she added softly, You are different. I chuckled weakly. That's the nicest thing anyone said to me all week. Her expression shifted, something vulnerable flickering behind her stoicism. I once had a sister, she said quietly. She was taken when your fleet bombed our colony. Since then, I swore I would never trust a human again. I'm sorry, I said, for what we did, for what I represent. Her eyes glistened faintly in the lightning flashes. You do not represent them. You are simply you. The storm howled outside. I shivered violently, my suit's power flickering. She noticed immediately. Without a word, Saren reached over, unfastened part of her chest plate, and pressed herself against me, wrapping her arm around my shoulders. The thermal energy from her body was startlingly warm. "W, what are you doing?" I stammered. "Keeping you alive," she said. "Do not misinterpret it." "Oh, no, of course not," I said. "Just saving your favorite human again." She glared at me, but there was no real anger. Only exasperation. "You are insufferable." "Yeah, but you're still holding me." She sighed, and to my shock, a faint blush tinted her silvery cheeks. I said, "Do not misinterpret it." I grinned. Too late. She smacked my shoulder, lightly this time. "Sleep, fool." Her warmth seeped through the cold, and despite everything, the storm, the exhaustion, I felt safe. When I woke, she was still there. Her head had tilted slightly, resting against mine. Her breathing was slow, steady. The alien warrior who swore to hate humans had fallen asleep beside one. By dawn, the storm had cleared. The beacon was visible on the horizon, flickering like salvation. We reached it by midday. The rescue ship's engines roared through the sky, and I felt the weight of everything hit me at once. Before we boarded, Saren stopped me. "When they ask what happened," she said, "tell them you were alone." "Why?" "If they know I helped you, your people will see me as a prisoner. Mine will call me a traitor. Either way, it ends badly." I stared at her. "You can't just disappear." "I must." She looked down, voice softening. "But perhaps not forever." I hesitated, then extended my hand. "Guess this is goodbye, then." She looked at my hand like it was a foreign weapon, then slowly clasped it. Her grip was firm, warm. "Goodbye, Kai Mercer," she said. "You are an exception." And just like that, she turned and walked back into the wilderness, her silver form vanishing into the light of Athis Prime's twin suns. 2 weeks later, back aboard the Terran medical ship, I found a small metallic fragment tucked into my repaired helmet, the same kind she used to fix it. It pulsed faintly with Valari script. I translated it. "For the human who made me doubt my hate." I smiled, looking out at the stars. Maybe someday we'd meet again.